The next thing you're gonna need besides your drywall, screws, and of course a wall to put it on is a mud knife. Also, you're gonna need tape and mud. You have to have mud. This whole bucket costs about 20 bucks. It's worth it to buy it if you're doing really any amount of sheetrock work. You can get the powdered bags, but it's a lot more of a learning curve trying to get that right. Another thing that's an absolute must if you're doing any amount of mud is a mud pan. Some people do not use them. I don't know how, but they do. This is a full stainless steel one. They have plastic ones that are like $9. Very, very good investment if you're planning on doing any drywall work. They do sell rounded mud knives to scrape out the bucket. I never had the joy of using one, and it's definitely not necessary. Every single mud knife, unless it's a really, really small one, has a little bit of a curve to it. So you just want to sight down your knife and make sure you're working it so the tips, these points, are touching and the middle has a little gap. But that just makes it so you have a little bit of mud in the middle and it feathers it down to nothing on the edges. I normally mix the mud up just a touch in the pan, get some of the bubbles out. It's pretty straightforward. Keep your knife pretty clean. You scrape it, you know, it just makes things cleaner. Chunk off a little bit on the bottom of that pile, pull it up, and then scrape it off. Then pull it off, pull it out. That's how you get mud out of the pan every single time. It just makes it smoother. You can see it looks kind of bubbly. You smooth it off, and look at that just beautiful surface in there. Again, a little bit of mud, clean the back off. We don't want that falling all over the place. And that looks pretty good. You want to look at it, it should be thinner at the edges so you're not falling off. It's a little bit thick on the edge there. So if you see it's a little bit thick on the edge, you can just pop that off in the corner, and now it's thinner, and then go over your nail. Now, there's not a particular angle. The angle's constantly changing as you're losing mud and stuff. That looks pretty good right there. 2 swipes. The thing is, you want to make sure you hit a nail from both directions, or at least, you know, 90 degrees, so you're not just pushing the mud into one corner. These ones, again, pretty straightforward. But if some of your nails do have a little line in that, it really doesn't matter that much. It's super easy to sand later. Check your knife again. Make sure you got the right curve. I got it backwards. I'm just going to shoot over the rest of these nails. Most common thing you're ever going to do is joining 2 pieces of drywall. This is on the edge of a sheet of drywall is a little bit thinner. So this is actually inset from the rest of this, which makes it super, super easy to do. I'm using paper tape. This is how I do it. Again, nobody told me how to do it like this. I've watched videos on it before, but it's just the easiest way for me to go like this. Some people definitely would shoot for using a smaller knife and swiping it this way, which I'm sure it would be faster, but I've never really felt like I've needed it. It's just simpler to me to use one knife like this. Okay. Now I'm going to thin it out right at the end so I can see that. I want to know where that is. Nice cut. I'm going to stick it in there. Make sure that line's centered. Make sure this line's centered. And we're going to lightly press it on there. Now that can be poked in the corner. Just like that. Pretty straightforward. Make sure you get a really good bed of mud under there. You don't have any dry spots. Make sure it's just as wide as your tape. Now, if you have 2 hands, which is nice if you have a table in front of you, most of the time you're not going to, so it's just going to be easier to know how to do it with one hand. So if I'm holding my pan, I'm up on a ladder or whatever, I can just press this down a little bit like this. Just very lightly, starting out, because it's a small piece, it'll be running all over the place. And then go from the middle, press it out, press it out. And you want to see these little tiny ridges forming on the edges. Right here, it looks a little bit dry. So I'm going to pull that off, put some mud in there. Okay. Alright, that's good now. Squeeze that out. And squeezing out, also make sure you have a nice even mud bed underneath of it. We'll pull this one in from the end, now that the rest of it's pretty stuck. Now we're going to do what everybody's seen on YouTube Shorts, and you just run along, okay? It doesn't look as clean as that because, you know, again, I'm not a pro. But it looks pretty good. Get that corner more. Sometimes I do that too, just slap it where I need it. It's not pretty, but you do that, and then it's pretty. Okay. There you go. That is a perfect joint. You can still see the tape. There's not a lot of mud on top of it, but that's fine because this is the first coat, and you cannot really get away with doing tape in one coat. I've never done it. I've done it in places where it didn't matter, but if you want to paint it, you have to do another coat on top of this. Now we're going to do something a little bit more complicated, which is the corner, and you're not supposed to do this right after doing this. So I'm going to show you how to do the corner when that's still wet. And the trick here is there's not any way to do that without messing up that. You're just not going to be able to, but I'm a very impatient person, so I'm going to do it. And this is the same process as doing it over there, though it is nicer to run it up sometimes. Again, it's very similar. It's not too difficult, but it is definitely harder to get this right. And I'm sure other people know how to do this way easier than what I'm doing. But it always looks good when I'm done, so I've never really had a reason to change the way I do it. That looks great. It's super rough, but that doesn't matter. It's really not important for this. You can rip your tape a little bit long, crimp it, and then pull it down. And now you have a corner piece. Again, super straightforward. Pretty intuitive, honestly. Everybody could figure out how to do this on their own. So that's pressed in. I'm going to press it up a little bit on the edges. I'm only using one hand here, so if this is my right hand, obviously I could hold my pan here, and I could do all that with one hand, up on a ladder, on the ceiling, you know, wherever you are. On this up. Really lightly press it out. You don't want to go too fast and move it out where it's supposed to be. Get it evened up. You got mud only on one side of the knife. You don't want it all over it, just on that one corner. And then we run up, and I caught the edge. You're not supposed to do that. Okay. Bad, bad, bad. Okay. Take that, clean that up, and then we run down. Running down's always easier. And we're putting pressure on this side of the knife, and not this side as much. And I'm gonna hit that, and then we're gonna hit this one more time. Just a little bit. I'm gonna leave that right there. Other side, same process, running up. And running down. And what you can do is flex your knife so that tip's not coming out, and you can even feather in those edges. Don't overwork it. You can mess up a lot by going back and trying to make it look too good like I just did. That is one coat. That's all you need to do on the first coat. Don't try to make it look too good. You're just gonna waste time and get really aggravated. You might look at this and say, hey, it looks pretty good, but it's got little spots like this. And you might not even want to sand it because sanding stinks and everybody hates sanding drywall. But if you don't sand it, then all these little bumps and ridges that are in it, they're just gonna show up on your knife and they're just gonna make more ripples. So what you gotta do is just go over it super light to knock off those high spots. It's gonna go on way smoother the second coat, and you're just gonna be happy with yourself. A great investment you will not regret is getting some mesh sandpaper and a little sander block like this. It just makes it so much easier, and you're already going to hate it. I still hate it, but it's not that bad. Just like that, knocks the high spots off. Don't worry about it too much. If you're sanding a lot, wear a mask. Your lungs are pretty important, so you don't want to lose those. So, I told you I'd use the 8-inch knife to finish this, and I'm gonna get you to a very nice finished product with the 8-inch knife. If you're doing it like a whole hallway or something, we're gonna be looking down the walls. I would recommend going to probably a 12-inch knife just to get that really wide fan out. Make a pass in between your nails like you normally see with drywall. Obviously, this doesn't look super professional because it's all splotchy because I did it, and again, I'm not professional. But generally, the goal in sizing up in knives every time is so when you mud it, you cover all those edges from the last one, so you're not sanding those edges twice. It's going on super smooth because it's a nice flat surface. So those look great. That's like done right there. Get a healthy amount of mud, cut the corners like that. It's the only place you can cut corners legally. And then we go this way. Just like last time, we're just gonna care a little bit more about finish quality on this one. A little bit higher. We're gonna kind of cheat, make it wider with just the 8-inch knife. I'm lazy. I'm not going to get the 10 or 12 inch knife. Okay, put down here. Do that. Boom. That's like buttery smooth. That's just with the 8 inch. So I think I am going to leave it right there because this is probably going to look really good when it's done. So now we're done. Pretty much entirely. I think I'm going to sand this and paint it, and I think it's going to look great. Quite difficult to catch on camera, but it actually looks pretty good. I can't really see, I can't see anything in here. There's like, on the edges I wasn't very careful, so you can see some little defects like that one there, and I mean, I left that screw entirely undone. Yeah, but everything else actually looks really good. I can't see any kind of joint in here. I did end up doing 3 coats. I did the last coat with a 10-inch knife, but that's pretty much it. So that's on the mud drywall. I did the first 2 coats with an 8-inch knife, the last coat with a 10-inch knife. I sanded it, I painted it, and it looks great. I can't see what I did. Even with really good lighting on it, I cannot tell where the mud is, where the tape is, and where the nails are, anything. So if I could do that, you could do it too. So thank you for watching this video. If you want to do any mud, just start doing it. You're not going to waste that much money because it's really not that expensive, and you're probably going to learn a lot doing it. So have fun, stay safe, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.